everyone, I am JD Gutierrez of Optech M14 and welcome to my video presentation about the necessary standards for conduct in educational settings. In this video, we will explore the importance of establishing standards that serve a purpose and contribute to a positive learning environment. So, let's dive right in. In order to determine the necessity of a standard, we need to understand its purpose. There are 4 key purposes that a standard should serve. First is maximizes on-task behavior and minimizes off-task, especially disruptive behaviors. This necessary standard of conduct in the classroom should aim to create an environment conducive to learning. By establishing rules that promote on-task behaviors and minimize distractions, such as prohibiting disruptive behaviors, teachers can create a focused and productive learning atmosphere. Second, secure the safety and comfort of the learning environment. This necessary standard for classroom conduct should prioritize the physical and emotional well-being of students. Rules that ensure a safe and comfortable learning environment, such as guidelines for appropriate behavior, can help prevent accidents, conflicts, and discomfort that may hinder the learning process. Third, prevents the activities of the class from disturbing other classes and persons outside the class. Classroom conduct should not disrupt the learning experiences of others in the school community. Necessary standards of conduct should consider the impact of class activities on neighboring classrooms and individuals outside the class, aiming to minimize disturbances and maintain a harmonious educational environment. Last, maintains decorum among students, school personnel, and visitors to the school campus. This necessary standard of conduct in the classroom involves promoting respectful interactions and maintaining decorum. By setting expectations for appropriate behavior, teachers contribute to a positive and professional atmosphere among students, school staffs, and visitors. This helps foster a sense of respect, cooperation, and orderliness within the school community. Now, let's examine a case study to better understand how these purposes apply. As a youth, Mr. Top learned that hat should not be worn indoors. He remembered his father yelling at him, "Take that hat off your head. What kind of place do you think you're in? Ladies are present." He remembers his parents laughing at old Mr. Busby for forgetting to take his hat off when he visited their home. When Mr. Tough became a teacher, it seemed natural for him to establish a rule prohibiting the wearing of hats in the classroom. He didn't give it much thought. Too often, Mr. Tough interrupted his own learning activities to enforce his no hat rule. Which, if any, of the 4 purposes does Mr. Tough's no hat rule serve? Ordinarily, wearing hats does not interfere with students being on task. Of course, you can think of exceptions, such as a student who is wearing an outlandish hat that is excessively large or decorated with provocative pictures. But such exceptions can be covered under general standards, such as dress for class so that your apparel does not distract others from their work. Classroom standards are established for the third of the 4 purposes out of consideration for persons who are not in the class but who are on or near the school campus. A lively discussion, even though on task, can be disturbing to a neighboring class. Establish standards such as be considerate of other classes, do not disturb them, as well as procedures for specific activities such as while we are walking past those houses on the way to visit a science center, stay on the sidewalk and away from people's lawn. Prohibiting the wearing of hats does not seem to serve the third purpose for having the standards for conduct. If Mr. Tough can justify his no hat rule at all, he'll probably relate it to the fourth purpose. Maintaining decorum among students, school personnel, and visitors to the school campus is necessary to the development of a healthy, business-like climate. Common courtesy is a critical ingredient for a smoothly operating classroom. But Mr. Tough and other teachers should be careful that they do not use this fourth purpose as an excuse for imposing their personal biases and tastes on students. Moving on to the fourth purpose, maintaining decorum, we must consider the importance of politeness and courtesy in the classroom. Politeness fosters a cooperative environment, while impoliteness can lead to conflicts. However, determining what behaviors are polite and impolite can be challenging due to the diverse backgrounds and subcultures among students. Although hat wearing in a building may be distasteful to one person, it may be in vogue to another and required by the religion of yet another. One approach is to define politeness and courtesy as behaviors that are exhibited as the result of thoughtful consideration for the rights and feelings of others. Such a practical definition, as opposed to conventional dictionary definition such as showing good manners, cultured, and refined, focuses on thoughtfulness towards others rather than on one group's opinion about what constitutes good taste. Even this advisable approach can lead to some difficulties in the complex classroom environment. During a discussion on nutrition in Miss Osque's health class, Julie says, "There was something in the newspaper yesterday about some scientists saying we should be careful not to eat too much red meat."
I don't give a shit what any scientists say. I'm not gonna stop eating meat.
Dick, please don't use words like that while we're having class. After class, Miss Osque meets with Dick privately and says, "Which one of our standards for behavior did you violate today?"
I don't know.
I have one in mind that I think you did violate, and I want you to read through the list and guess which one I have in mind. Dick begins to read the list of standards displayed on the wall.
I don't know. Are you talking about the fourth one?
Please read it aloud. Dick reads,
"Before you act or speak, think of how your actions and words influence others. Act and talk in ways that others appreciate and not in ways they find offensive."
Yes, that is the one.
Because of what I said? Everybody says shit that doesn't hurt anybody.
I agree that it's no big deal. But there are people, including me, who just don't like to say or hear that word during class. Because you are quite capable of substituting words that others don't find offensive to express yourself, I do not expect you to violate Standard 4 again.
But, Miss Osway, we talk about bowel movements and urine in health class. Why is that okay?
You've made an excellent point. I can't argue with your logic. But although our society considered it acceptable to refer to human waste material on television, as in laxative commercial, our society generally considered it unacceptable to say the word shit on television. In fact, saying that word on television or in public places is a violation of obscenity laws in many locations. As long as our society frowns on public use of such words, people are going to feel uncomfortable hearing them spoken or written in formal, business-like settings such as our classroom. Right or wrong, we violate Standard 4 by using words like shit when other words that don't offend anyone can be used instead.
It doesn't seem right that something is okay in one place but not in another.
It's like belching. Most everyone has a good healthy belch now and then, but most people in our society find other people's belching to be disgusting.
So, belching is a violation of Standard 4 also.
A public display of belching, when it could be avoided, would indeed be a violation of Standard 4. Did Dick violate Standard 4 in this case study? Whether or not Dick's use of a word that is socially unacceptable to many people violated the standard depends on the degree to which others found his expression offensive. Miss Osqued did indicate to him that she, for one, was uncomfortable with the word being used in class. If you feel that Dick was within his rights in saying what he pleased as long as no one was really hurt or prevented from being on task, then you may not want to include any of standards for maintaining decorum. On the other hand, if you find it important to uphold community standards of courtesy in your classroom, then you should establish standards for all four purposes. In either case, please proceed with care. You want to make sure that you do not allow unnecessary standards to be established under the guise of maintaining decorum. The mistake of establishing unnecessary standards can cause you more problems than the mistake of failing to establish necessary rules. When considering the inclusion of a particular standard of conduct for your classroom, ask yourself, which of the four purposes for having standard will it serve? If the answer is none, then that standard is unnecessary and should not be included. The inclusion of unnecessary standard has three unpleasant consequences. 1. You will be responsible for enforcing a standard that does not have a defensible rationale. Thus, you put yourself in the position of teaching students to submit to unjustified regulations. This means that you are enforcing rules and guidelines without a clear and logical reasons for their existence. By doing so, you may be promoting a culture of blind obedience rather than a critical thinking and questioning of authority. This can be detrimental to the development of students' ability to analyze and evaluate the validity of rules and regulations. Number 2. Once your student realizes that one of the standards you enforce serves no important purpose, they will tend to generalize that other standards might be unimportant also. This can lead to a loss of trust in the educational system and its rules, as students may perceive them as arbitrary and unnecessary. Consequently, they may be less inclined to follow other rules and regulations, undermining the overall discipline and order within the educational environment. Number 3. Students who are penalized for resisting an unnecessary standard may become disenchanted with school. Such students are often distracted from the business of learning because time that could be allocated for learning activities is used to deal with violations of standards. The time and energy that could have been allocated to productive learning pursuits are instead spent on dealing with violations and their consequences. This distraction hinders students' ability to focus on their academic development and may negatively affect their overall educational experience. Of course, you could choose to enforce only the necessary standards and ignore the unnecessary ones. This is inadvisable. Unenforced standards, even unnecessary ones, teach students that standards need to be taken seriously. It is more difficult to teach students to be on task when they feel that they can be selective about which standards to follow and which to ignore. To wrap it all up, necessary standards for conduct in educational settings serve as a comprehensive guideline to promote respectful interactions, inclusivity, academic integrity, professionalism, and safety within educational institutions. By adhering to these standards, educational settings can foster a positive learning environment that values diversity, promotes ethical behavior, and prioritizes the well-being of all individuals involved. That's it Thanks for watching. I hope you find this video informative. Again, I am JD Gutierrez of Optic M14.